What's up? My name is Kamal Akeel, and today I'm replacing the coolant expansion tank on this 2006 Porsche Cayenne S. So this motor is the 4.5 V8, the naturally aspirated one. And this is actually a little more difficult than you might think because there's just a lot of stuff you have to take out in front of it to actually get it out. When looking at it in the car, it does look like it can just come out the way it is, but it's a little more complicated than that. So the first thing I did was basically just this hose attaches to the tank, and so since you have to take out all the things in front, the first thing you want to do is disconnect this hose and just kind of just put it over this way. Then the next thing you want to do is take out the air box. So this is a little tricky actually. First thing I did was I took the little elbow that goes from here to the box itself. And you basically have to dismantle the whole box. After you take that off, you take the front cover of the air filter box off, you take the air filter element out, and then lastly, you gotta take this piece out, and this is actually probably the biggest pain of the whole job, along with one other thing. So basically, you think, okay, how do I get this out? Well, you try it from there, and then you realize, okay, I gotta come over here to the wheel well. So then what you have to do is you gotta take your wheel and the fender liner off, obviously. And then this piece just has like a lip that kind of just clamps over this part, and that was the hardest thing to take off. Once you do that, you're able to lean this forward in the car and then pull it out, which it has these two like little nipples here that go right here. So then after you take that off, this piece with like the torque mount for your motor sits in here. So this will sit in here like this, and then the reservoir's there. So you have to take off the bolt here. There's one more on this side, and then one more all the way in the back here that attaches over there underneath. And I actually got that last one from the fender well as well. And then once you get all those things off, you just have these two other hoses that connect to the tank. So before I actually did that, some of you might also want to be like changing out the coolant when you do this. So to do that, you gotta lift up the car and like take the underbody panels off, and you can see from here, I guess some of these cars, I think particularly the twin turbo model, like at the bottom of the radiator they might actually have a plastic screw that you can undo to drain the coolant. This motor holds, I was reading, like almost 5 gallons or something crazy, so it's not all going to drain out, but you can get the majority out. But like I was saying, this does not have that plastic screw at the bottom of the radiator, so instead I just took the lower radiator hose off, and that was the second most difficult thing because it's probably not been off in a really long time. So I actually used some silicone spray and wiggled the hose around to just kind of get it in there to soften up the O-ring in there to help get it off, and eventually it did come off. So after you do that, then you can take your tank out. Obviously let that drain for a while so you can get all the fluid out of your tank. So before actually doing this, we saw some just like white streaks like this that were just going down the side here, and then I pressure tested to verify that it was coming out of the expansion tank and not one of the hoses. So after you do that, then you know for sure that's what you should start with replacing anyways. And then yeah, so I'm about to go in with the new one, and yeah, I cleaned up this area just so, if for some reason something's leaking after you do the repair, you won't question whether or not that the white marks from the coolant are from replacing the tank or if it's something new. So it's a good idea to just clean this up. And then, so for like putting coolant back in, we don't have like a vacuum system to get it in the vehicle. So what you're gonna do is basically just put coolant until it's to the max. And this car has, I'm pretty sure, a mechanical water pump. I'm pretty sure. You just gotta drive the car and the coolant will keep going down as the pump gets all the air out of the system. So you might have to fill it up like 2 or 3 times after like driving it. And so that's it. So we're gonna go back together. And then the coolant is a 50-50 mixture, in case you were wondering. If you get the Porsche stuff, it's just the concentrate. So yeah, this was a little more tricky than it might look in the car. It looks like you can just take the tank out, but it wasn't that way. So have fun, don't hurt yourself. Peace. So to take the expansion tank out, it was actually only one screw right here, and then underneath there's this piece right here, which there's another piece that you might have seen earlier in the video that just slides into that part. Going back in, I had to like try it a couple times to finally get it in there, but once it is in there, like it doesn't move at all, so you'll know. So if you put it in and it's still like not solid, you know you didn't get it in there correctly. So yeah. And then as far as this tube, I didn't actually mention it earlier, sorry. Basically it's just like an overflow in case something like the O-ring in your cap's going bad and it's actually trying to come out this way. There's a little hole right here, it's kind of hard to see. But right there, can you see it? So like this, well, underneath this hose, there's a hole that almost looks like where this screw goes in, and you just like plug this back down into there just so, I guess it prevents coolant from getting on here, which it's a good idea to do that, because then, well, by the way, when I got this new tank, I also got a new cap, because that's like the issue is it's hard to see in here, but the O-ring, it actually feels like flat just from being, when the cap's in there, it's just kind of pretty squished, kind of tight to hold all the pressure. So I'd recommend getting a new cap just with a fresh O-ring, so you know that everything on your new expansion tank is sealing well. So.